Do you know what you're listening to?
You're listening to Thoughts of the Week.
Oh, how's that?
All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read about the hospital that Dr. Emma Rochelle Wheeler and Dr. John N. Wheeler were operating in, okay, which is the Walden Hospital. And I'm going to pull that picture up here. Let me see. Let me pull the old picture up. All right. And then pull the color pictures up here as well. All right. This is what it should be looking like today, roughly. All right. There's another look from another angle. Okay. And there you go. One of the markers for the Walden Hospital. And here's the marker again at a different angle. All right. So you can also see the front entrance of the hospital. Now, this hospital is now, I don't think it's changed since then, but it's no longer a hospital, but it has been turned into dorm rooms for the college that's right there in that area. All right. I think it's UTC is in that area, and that is the building. It's been transformed into dorm rooms now, and I think it's still up, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So with that being said, let's get into Walden Hospital and read about, so you guys can learn about this hospital that Emma Wheeler had built, and both she and her husband, Dr. John N. Wheeler, operated in. All right. Or had patients go there. So Walden Hospital, first African American hospital in Chattanooga. All right. Walden Hospital was the first African American hospital in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was also the first and only African American teaching hospital in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Walden was founded, built, and managed by Dr. Emma Rochelle Wheeler. All right. Founded, built, and managed by this lady. All right. Walden Hospital had a bed capacity of 30 patients, a staggering number at the time. There were 9 private rooms with 2 beds in each room. Just picture that as I'm saying here. There were 9 private rooms, and in each room there were 2 beds in each room of those 9, and 1 large ward with 12 beds in it. There were surgical, maternity, and nursery departments, and Walden had a house staff of 2, with 3 nurses on board, one of them a recent graduate from a nursing school. But perhaps best of all, Walden was happily patronized by 17 physicians and surgeons, some of whom were white doctors with Negro patients. The average load was 12 patients per month. Walden Hospital was dedicated to the community on July 30th, 1915, with an afternoon and evening dedicatory service that turned into a gala community event. The afternoon exercises were held at the First Baptist Church, which was also located on East 8th Street. The Reverend E. Moore, pastor of the St. James Baptist Church, gave the invocation. Dr. O.W. James, owner of the East Side Pharmacy and the James Building of 9th Street fame, and co-owner of the James and Allen Drug Company, was the master of ceremonies and gave the introductory speech. Prominent members of the city made their appearance, such as Mayor Littleton, Dr. E.B. Wise, the city physician, Lee Suggs, representing a group called the NCC DBSS convention, and Reverend Tate, who preached the sermon. But the dedication of Walden Hospital was too important an event to be confined only to morning exercises. All right. There were evening exercises too, which were held in the stately parlors of Walden Hospital. This time, Dr. W.A. Thompson was master of ceremonies and gave the introductory speech. Reverend Charles A. Bell gave the invocation, and businessmen, physicians, and professional men from the community gave 2-minute speeches. The list of physicians attending the grand opening was impressive. All right, as I change pages here. By now, Chattanooga was proud of its little oddity called Emma Rochelle Wheeler. She had come to Chattanooga as its first and only female African American physician, but now the community knew her as an innovator and entrepreneur. Doctors Looney, Moore, Stevens, Patton, Callier, Douglas, Taylor, Foster, Fields, Allen, Sims, Sharp, Valentine, Duro, Eberhart, Wilson, Cabinet, Frierson, and Macker all came to sum up their impression of Walden Hospital and to wish Dr. Emma Rochelle Wheeler well. Professor Howes and Mr. George Washington Franklin, undertaker and owner of the G.W. Franklin Funeral Home, represented the businessmen and professionals of the community. A nursing school. In 1925, 10 years after its opening, Emma Wheeler had another innovative idea. She believed that Chattanooga's Negro community needed more than just a healthcare facility where they could be admitted in times of need. She believed that African American community needed a nursing school where aspiring African American healthcare professionals could learn how to teach other people in the community about healthcare. And that was one of the things I had left out. She had also had a school built as well. So Dr. Emma Wheeler, she did a lot. In 1898, Dr. Thomas William Hagler had started a little school called the Chattanooga National Medical College, where he educated both Negroes and whites in the medical professions. Now it was Emma's turn to start a school that would allow African Americans to rise above such typical occupations as domestic housekeeper, farmer, cook, nanny, and janitor to medical occupations, such as nurse or pre-medicine. She and her husband John taught and trained scores of African Americans who dreamed of becoming nurses. Emma Wheeler also started the Nurse Services Club. This was the only club of its type in Chattanooga and was operated entirely separate from the Walden Hospital. All right, that was separate. Even Erlanger Hospital, the local white hospital, did not have a club like this one. All right, even the white hospital. I know of Erlanger Hospital. I also know of Walden Hospital as well. All right, the Nurse Service Club was a type of wellness club and may well have been the first of its type in the Chattanooga area. After years of serving poverty-stricken Negroes who could barely pay the fees for an emergency procedure, Emma got the idea to invent a prepayment plan that would take care of all that. She designed the plan so that if African Americans paid money into it, even while they were well, they would be guaranteed 2 free weeks of hospitalization when the need arose. All right. Plus, they would receive at-home assistance by one of Emma's nurses after they were discharged from the hospital. The price was 25 cents per week, a fortune at that time, certainly, but well worth it in the end. No other medical establishment in Chattanooga had ever offered such perks before Wheeler started her Nurse Services Club, although others would quickly follow her example. So again, like I said, she was very innovative, came up with different methods and ideas to add on and improve her hospital. All right. And again, let me pull this up. Here's the hospital. Get that on the screen. All right. Let's see here what we got here. So Walden Hospital civil duty. All right. Walden Hospital did not only perform a medical duty to the community, it performed a civil duty also. When World War II became a harsh reality in 1939, Chattanooga African Americans were fully expected to serve their country like the rest of the males across the nation. The problem was that the same prejudice and discrimination prevalent in the early years still stood in 1939. Ready and able young Negro boys needed to pass their physicals before they could be inducted into the service and sent off to fight for the country that still did not, as yet, see them as equals. Unfortunately, these boys were not allowed into the city hospitals for their physicals because the city hospitals were for whites only. But Walden Hospital solved that problem. One by one, these brave young boys lined up at the fire escape stairs located on the right side of Walden Hospital and patiently waited their turn for the physical exam. Emma Wheeler prepared a sunny room with large windows on the very top floor, and there she arranged the tables and necessary equipment. And as each frightened, hopeful, skittish, or courageous recruit stepped over the threshold, Chattanooga's only female Negro physician performed the very examination that the white doctors would not. In another instance, Walden Hospital fixed the social blunder associated with the Chattanooga Streetcar Company. The Chattanooga Streetcar Company employed more African Americans. They were expected to be in excellent physical condition. However, they too were turned away from area white hospitals when they went for physical exams. Walden Hospital opened its doors to these employees. All right, so here's lastly here, Walden Hospital most certainly served the African American community in many ways. And yes, indeed, they very much so did. The nurse training school helped African Americans to better themselves. Walden's Nurse Services Club was like healthcare insurance for people with low incomes, and Walden Hospital served the public by accepting African American patients who were not welcome in other scenarios. So in short, Walden Hospital was, for a time, everything to everyone in the African American community. All right. And again, from inside the book, here's the black and white picture of the saying that you guys see on the color one. So Walden Hospital, they definitely stepped up for all the blacks in the Chattanooga community when the white hospitals wouldn't accept them. So that is it for today, man. I hope you guys learned something. I'm sure there's a lot of people who did not know about this at all. Again, here are the pictures of the hospital, and then there's the markers. All right, and here's Dr. Emma Wheeler, who was the captain of the ship, if you will, and her husband John Wheeler helped out. But Dr. Emma Rochelle Wheeler really did everything. She was the innovator of the hospital. She came up with great ideas, solved problems, and definitely was an entrepreneur as well. All right. And again, this is coming from the book, African Americans of Chattanooga, A History of Unsung Heroes by Rita Lorraine Hubbard. All right.
Single.